Hey everyone, Will Chow here, and today I'm going to be discussing one of the most important takeaways from one of the most incredible books of this decade, maybe Principles by Ray Dalio. So, I want to just cover one lesson I've learned from this book. In fact, it's a central theme of the book, and I think it's really important for anyone who wants to be successful in their life or with their wealth and career. Now, if you're not familiar with Ray Dalio or the success of this book, there's over 200 books written by billionaires, and this man has written one that has a very thorough and specific set of uh, advice for how to succeed in your life and your career or business. And that's something that a lot of the other books don't do. I know because I've read a decent amount of them. Others kind of just detail their memoir or biography. Some will give more so a description of their life, but this one really cuts to the core. He also does talk about his life, but I really want to cover one really cool theme I learned, and that was simply the idea of how you should take life like a scientist. Now, technically, we already kind of do this, and we it's a concept that in the personal development world people are already kind of aware of, but he really takes it to another level by really defining it and illustrating how he's used it in his own life, and breaking it down into simple, quick, um, but memorable steps. And basically, it's about it's eerie because Will Smith kind of describes this his own way too. He's described this his in three steps in a Charlie Rose interview 10 years ago. And Will Smith's definition is decide what you want, why you want it, how you're going to get it, and then get it. Period. So that's his words for describing it. I think Ray Dalio breaks it down into more detail to address the other issues that may come up. So his process is very similar, but more. It's a bit better in the sense that you know what to do if you try something that doesn't work. So think for yourself to decide what you want and what is true, and then decide what you should do to achieve what you want in light of what is true. And do that with humility and open mindedness so that you consider the best thinking available to you. So I think what most people do is like they want something, they try and get it, and then they get mad when they don't achieve that. And they act very emotionally and irrationally, and they get a defeatist attitude. Maybe they get blame. They start shooting out complaints, excuses, and blame at others. Maybe they'll try a few more times and give up, and they'll get bitter or angry at the world. And it's not really done in a methodical or scientific way. And I don't think you have to be super analytical or super, everything has to be numbers driven, because when you look at the most successful people, they're not these nerdy numbers guys only. They have a lot of emotional and social and qualitative intelligence too. So what he goes into more detail here, but the basic idea is that when you set this goal and you try something and it fails, you reflect and you ask yourself why this doesn't work, and you try and discover the truth about the world rather than get too caught up with your ego, with your emotional biases, with other issues that really get you, angry or frustrated, and not willing to see the truth. Some people will even, as Charlie Munger says, they will convince themselves that something's not true because they can't handle the truth. And then he really addresses the issue and importance of having the open mindedness and humility to get a thorough outlay of the situation from all these other experts and people who with differing perspectives, and who can bring up factors that you didn't even consider. So this may seem like a lot of theory, so I'm going to bring it into a final example, a real world example from my own life, so that you as a young kid can really, understand this from like a young kid's perspective. So for me, that's dating. I think this definitely applies to my struggles in the dating realm. And so let's break it down. So one thing that I have really struggled with is the emotional aspect of it, where I don't really take things always in a logical way, despite me trying to or thinking I do. And so that's something I can definitely work on. When something doesn't work out, oh, I talked to this girl and used this line and it did not work, and she was very mean to me, and you get very frustrated and your ego gets hurt. How could she do that? She doesn't know anything about me, blah blah blah. And you get angry and frustrated, and you throw your hands up after getting rejected like that many times. So maybe you'll try one other method. Oh, maybe I'll go to this. I went to a yoga class, for example, and went to a few yoga classes and some volleyball classes. Did not work out. Same thing. You just give up. You get frustrated. You get start blaming the world. You get bitter. But what Ray Dalio recommends, and of course he's applying this more to business and career and other areas of life, but you can see kind of how it works for other areas. Is you're a searcher of the truth. You're not a searcher for whatever flatters your ego. And so instead, and I've done this too, but not as well as I should, is first off, I'll seek all these other aspects of perspectives and factors. So I really like the Mating Grounds podcast because they bring on all the top experts in evolutionary biology and apply dating advice to this. And I learned all these different factors and perspectives I didn't even consider when it came to dating, from experts and leading people in the field, scientists like Dr. Geoffrey Miller, Dr. David Buss, and so on and so forth. And so when you get that aspect and you see these perspectives, you start thinking of things differently. Because, for example, you get these factors that weren't even considered. In the case of what I'm mentioning, I learned from the Mating Grounds podcast how important not a woman it considers safety. Uh, Guys don't really think of that because they're bigger and they don't really care. So they get from a primordial and primitive level, they will consider any type of stranger, is this guy trustworthy? Will he attack me? Will he do something I won't like physically when I'm alone with him? So these are things that are unconsciously being processed that the girl may not be even consciously too aware of, maybe to a certain extent, that you don't even consider in your interaction. And then, these are factors that by bringing in other intelligent people from different domains, you get these different perspectives. And then I also get, a girl's perspective. So I'll listen to like advice from girls online and in real life, and they'll give you these other aspects. I learned that honesty is really important. It's better to be honest because you get that respect and transparency, and they appreciate that you're being truthful with your intentions rather than manipulating. That's very important for a girl. So these are other aspects that get put into it, and then you get these other domains and opinions from, of course, people that you need to have credibility and some actual reasonable level of reason to trust them. And you gather all that together, and all of a sudden you find out the truth rather than opinions or data that doesn't map out to these things, and you get a more holistic picture of how the world works, and you can better navigate that and try new things you haven't. For example, maybe it's not trying to pick up girls that you've never met in a public location. Maybe it's giving them time to get to know you and the qualities that uh, you shine most greatly at in but take time to reveal. Maybe it's through a some type of group, a book club, or I don't know, a fitness club, or a leadership club like Toastmasters. I'm part of Toastmasters. So that's Ray Dalio's principle in a nutshell, and I think it encompasses everything throughout this book. And I think it's worth picking up. Full disclosure, I've not read all of Principles. I've only read like a page of it, but I have watched a lot of interviews by Ray Dalio summarizing the book. Incredible book. He really goes into more detail about this with even more subtasks. Be a hyper realist. Truth, or more precisely, an accurate understanding of reality, is the essential foundation for any good outcome. Be radically open and transparent. Don't let fears of what others think of you stand in your way. Embrace radical truth and transparency. will bring more meaningful work and meaningful relationships. Look to nature to learn how reality works. Evolve or die. Evolution is the greatest single force in the universe. Um, it drives everything. Understand nature's practical lessons. Maximize your evolution. It is fundamental law of nature. Go to the pain rather than avoid it. Embrace tough love. Now, I'm not, as a disclaimer here, some people will take Ray Dalio stuff and they'll assume, oh, he's a billionaire, he must be good at everything. I'm going to follow him for love advice, life advice, happiness advice, health advice, fitness advice, nutrition advice, uh, everything. And that's not true. I think that's a huge mistake that I made and others other young people will make when initially starting off and trying to improve their lives. The problem with this is that they're not good at everything. They're good at making money. They may have horrible family lives. They may not be happy. They may be happy. They may not be. You don't know. And therefore, don't take it too far. I think, Tim Ferriss takes it a little bit too far. Really, focus on if they're good at a certain thing. If Tim Ferriss interviews a UFC fighter, listen to that guy for UFC advice if you want to be a competitive UFC fighter. But don't necessarily take his advice on um, health or fitness or happiness. I mean, you still could, but take it with a grain of salt and test it out. If it doesn't work, throw it out and seek the truth. So similarly, um, of course, this is worth testing when applied to other areas of life like dating, but it could maybe only apply to a subsect of um, business and career. Uh, and take The War of Art by Sun Tzu. That's a book on fighting wars. Now, plenty of people have written articles and given advice about how you can apply this to video games, to business, and so forth. And some of it will work, but a lot of it will not because it's specifically tied to the terrain, the environment, the weather, the resources, the manpower of navigating and managing people and your weapons for war. So, you know, it's kind of like trying to take tennis advice and applying to basketball. Like, sure, the overarching principles of hard work and persistence may still transfer, but maybe not the small technical mechanics. So, thanks for watching. Hopefully, you'll check out the book Principles by Ray Dalio, and you'll learn something from this, and it'll improve your life. And you never know. 10 years from now, you could have 10 times a better life just because of a sentence you read in this book. I'll leave a link in the description to the Amazon page where you can buy this book, new or used. Pro tip: you can buy it used for a fraction of the price, just good quality. And if you go through my link in the uh, description of this video, I will get a small commission at no extra cost to you if you purchase through that link. Thanks for watching.